I used to think that staying at a job that was just absolutely draining me was just part of being a responsible adult. You just stick with it. But now I know that ignoring like those quiet signals from your soul is actually one of the most expensive things that you can do. So let me explain why. But first, welcome to the Giver Method channel. My name's Jake, and today I want to dive into something that hits a little close to home for way too many people, especially the people that I work with, parents, entrepreneurs, people who are working that 9-to-5, grinding away and such. Like, it hits really close to home. There's the slow and quiet erosion of your soul at work, and we're going to talk about what you can actually do about that. You know, you might look like you have it all together. I've been there, so I totally understand. Maybe you've got a steady paycheck, you've got decent benefits, you've got the title that sounds impressive on LinkedIn, but inside, you're exhausted, you're running on fumes completely. Not because you're lazy or anything like that. You're running on fumes. That's it. You're spending every day going to work, doing all the tasks and the asks and everything, and you just you shrink, right? You suppress your real gifts, and you start to pretend like you're someone you're not. You maybe even show up totally differently at work than you would if you were interacting with anybody else, your spouse, your kids, your friends, family. You know, maybe you're a parent, and you catch yourself wondering what kind of example you might be setting for your kids. Am I modeling this quiet misery in the name of providing? Or you're an entrepreneur who's trapped by a business that no longer feels like it's your own. You know, or maybe you're just clocking in and out, showing up like a pro, but you feel invisible, or completely replaceable in the job that you're doing. If I was gone, everything would function just fine without me. If that's you, or if that relates to you in any sort of a way, then this video is for you. And here's a couple things I want you to know. Number one, this is not an entitlement thing to feel this way. You're not crazy. You're definitely not alone when it comes to this. There is a completely frustrating feeling. You know, I don't know if you experienced it. It's that Sunday night dread, where there's that constant tiredness and low grade, just disconnection from yourself and from life. And once again, that's not any sort of a flaw in your character. That's just your soul trying to tell you something's off, and it's worth listening to what it has to say. And so I want to unpack that for you today and dive deeper into it. Now, my name is Jake Talbert. I'm the founder. I'm the author of this book. It's called The Giver Method. It's available on Amazon, and it's available right now for between $2 and $10 based off if you get the digital version or the physical. It's the best $2 to $10 you could invest in yourself. I'm going to put a link in the description where you can go get yourself a copy, because it is making massive impact for people just like you. So you can go get yourself a copy, or pause the video, go to Amazon, look up The Giver Method by Jake Talbert. Go get yourself a copy. It is designed to help people discover their gifts and superpowers, create more impact and influence in the world, more value for the people around them, better relationships, better engagements. Living a more fulfilled and happy life, finding delight and joy, being energized that you're actually being able to show up as who you want to show up as. So why not? That's the best $2 to $10 you could invest in yourself and in your future. Go get yourself a copy. Like I said, I'll put a link down in the description where you can go get it on Amazon. Get yourself a copy of that thing. Now, what people love about the book is that it's two-part. Number one, it's grounded in my story, and I've walked very similar paths to you. I'm a parent. I've got 3 kids. I've got a spouse. I'm an entrepreneur, and I've worked in that corporate environment. You know, that 9-to-5, working in that sea of cubicles, feeling like it's just sucking my soul away. I've been in this scenario. And so I've walked a very similar path, and so people love that it's grounded in stories very similar to where they are. At the same time, all the action items, the exercise, everything we're talking about today and that's in the book is designed for people who are busy, parents, entrepreneurs, and people working, grinding away at work. It's designed to fit into your schedule and things that you can do without completely blowing everything up. So once again, get yourself a copy. Go take advantage of that. Especially while it's at this lower pricing of $2 to $10. Now, I remember being in the same scenario, feeling this same sort of way. I would stay, far too long in the work I was doing that was slowly draining my soul. I told myself, well, gosh, I should be grateful. Things look good, right? I've got a good salary. I've got benefits. I've got the things. I'm checking the list. But that dissatisfaction I had, it wasn't ungrateful thinking. It was just I thought this was just the normal adult life. What I discovered was that the persistent frustration I was experiencing was actually my gifts and my authentic self trying to break through and trying to guide me towards what would energize me more than deplete me and actually lead to a better life. there's tons of data out there in the book and when we research these topics for the videos, tons of stuff out there that shows like from different workplace psychology that like chronic job dissatisfaction creates like measurable impacts in your physical health, your mental well-being, your relationship quality. But here's what's encouraging. The same studies like that are out there, they show that like, you know, when you can like demonstrate that when people find work or things that align to like when they find in their job they're in or in the work that they're doing, that it's aligned to their values and natural gifts, it enhances their performance and life satisfaction across all areas. And so in this video, I want to walk you through these like 7 really practical, grounded principles, you know, that are going to help you to figure out like if your job feels simply like if it's just stressful or is it like just that, hey, I'm misaligned with who I really am, and more importantly, how you start making changes either right where you are or by slowly building the bridge to the work that fits you. Now, all the tools we cover today, they're going to be grounded in the GIVER method, like we talked about, you know, and I've taught this to people for so long, like, and it's nothing fluffy or woo-woo. Like, this is designed for real people, like with real responsibilities, who are tired of like burning out in the jobs that don't reflect who they are or what their gifts are. And so for those of you, you know, so once again, get yourself a copy. At the same time, some people watch these videos and they're like, yeah, but I'd like some one-on-one attention. I like hands-on support. Well, I recently opened up a few of my one-on-one coaching positions. You can go check out the link down below for the coaching and mentoring stuff. You know, I've walked so many people through that sort of idea, you know, to help them get out of that survival mode into thriving in the work that actually reflects them. So once again, you'll find a link below for coaching. And then if you have a team or a podcast or an event or platform where people gather and you think a message like this would serve them, I'd love to talk about how we could bring it to your audience in very real and useful ways. So there's a link down below for speaking and podcasting. And of course, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, tap that bell for notifications. I don't want you to miss out on any of the future content I create because I create videos all week long. You know, I want to make sure that you get those. They're designed for people just like you to break free from what's keeping them stuck. So let's not delay anymore. Like, you know, if you're here to stop faking fine, you know, and you're ready to explore what work, like aligned work could look like for you, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in. The first principle or idea that we want to cover is like how to know if your job is quietly draining your soul. Like sometimes you have to learn to distinguish between stress, like temporary stress, and like fundamental misalignment. You know, it's like a barometer for yourself. You have to learn to read the signals. You know, something most people miss when it comes to work stress is not all stress is created equal. Some of it's like your normal ups and downs of work, like and of life. I get it. That happens to all of us. You're never going to avoid stresses. But some of it is your soul quietly waving the white flag. You know, if you've been, you know, brushing off that drained, like checked out, low key, like dread, like low key, like I just dread my Monday, like that feeling inside of you by saying like, hey, it's just a busy season. Like you might want to just slow down and take a closer look, because sometimes what looks like stress is actually a misalignment. And that kind of misalignment doesn't go away on its own. The difference, like temporary stress usually has a reason. There's a deadline, a tough meeting, there's an annoying coworker, whatever, like you feel it and then it passes. But like soul misalignment, that's deep stuff. That's when your work consistently is asking you to be someone you're not. You know, use gifts that you don't have. Like, you know, and you know, ignore the ones that you do have. You know, when your energy never bounces back, even after rest, there's a slow leak of your identity. Most people don't notice it until they're running on fumes. They're burnt out. They're crashing. So here's how you know. Like, here's the first step is going to be to realize that you're in that. And let's talk about how you can. So simply start with a check-in. Like, so think of it like I mentioned a barometer. Like, think of it like your soul barometer. Each morning before work, pause and ask yourself, like, how alive do I feel about the day ahead? And rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. It's not about how much sleep you got. Like, this is about how aligned you feel. And do it for maybe 1 to 2 weeks. Watch for any patterns that start to come up for yourself. What do you notice? And then, of course, you can always try the Sunday night test. How do you feel when you're thinking about Monday? If your stomach drops, you know, every weekend, like, once again, that's not, if there's anything wrong or it's not laziness, like, it's your body warning you that something's off. And of course, you can always do a values audit where you write down maybe your top 5 values. Maybe you value creativity or service, family, growth, autonomy, whatever. And ask yourself, like, how often does my work ask me to act against my values? You know, if your list and your like day-to-day don't match up, you're likely in like the value misalignment, right? It's one of the most common signals for that's going to lead to long-term burnout. And then here's one more. Like there's this idea of doing a gift tracker where like you pick your top 3 natural strengths, the things that just come naturally to you, that energize you. And for a week, track them at work. Give yourself some sort of a rating system where you're like, all right, I'm going to give myself a +1 or whatever if I am using them. I'm going to do like a 0 if I'm ignoring them. And I'm going to take away points or whatever if it's, if I feel like I'm shutting down because of the thing. Like if you're seeing a lot of zeros and negatives, like, in that sort of a pulse, like you're not bored, you're not burnt, like you're boxed in. Like these little check-ins, like they don't take much time, but they tell you something big when you stop. Like that way you can stop brushing off the misalignment as like, it's stress, it's busy, it's just my job. You get really clear on what's actually happening, and that clarity is one of the first steps to changing, because like you can't discover your gifts and create meaningful impact if you're stuck in a role that shrinks you. Your soul has been quietly telling you the truth this entire time, and it's time you start listening to it. Now that leads us into all the other ones. So we first we need to recognize that that's where we are. And as we move into the second principle here, it's about this your identity eroding away, and how you recognize that when your work makes you forget who you are. Once again, you're not a title, you're not a job title, but work can make you forget that. And it's a really sneaky way, soul killing way that jobs do damage. And you hear people talk about jobs versus careers versus callings. Oh my gosh. What if you were doing something that was not just a job, but it was a career? You're going to feel better about being in a career versus a job because you've got long-term goal aspiration. But if you're in your calling, everything's off the table at that point. You're able to actually move forward with purpose, And so this type of thing, it sneaks in against you. It doesn't just drain your energy, it chips away at your identity. You start showing up in ways that don't even feel like you. You downplay your ideas in meetings. You fake excitement about projects that you secretly can't stand. You laugh along with something that rubs you the wrong way just to keep the peace, and slowly, without realizing it, you forget what it feels like to feel like the real you at work, to be authentic at work. This isn't about just the fact that you're feeling tired. It's about feeling like your watered down version of yourself, inauthentic to who you are. And the scariest part is one day you catch yourself wondering, what do I even What do I even like anymore? Who am I? Or this used to make me come alive. Why isn't it anymore? That's the identity erosion we're talking about. If you've ever felt that fog settling in, you're not alone. And so let's talk about what are the ways to come back into yourself and be more authentic. So one of the first things you could do is the who was I before sort of a reflection, where you're going to set aside some time and think back about who you were before the job pressure, before the promotion, before the expectations. What did you love to do before work became what it had to be? What naturally just came to you naturally before you had to prove yourself every single day? And then do this, fill in this sort of sentence. So you're going to reflect on that for maybe, I said, 10, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes at most. And then you're going to do it this sentence fill in sort of an idea where it's okay, independent of my job title, I'm someone who, and fill in the blank. And do it 5 times, write it down, say it out loud. Let yourself remember that you are so much more than the role or the paycheck. You have this full identity outside of what is on your LinkedIn bio. Then of course, track your real self moments. Pay attention to when you feel the most like you. It could be a conversation, a task, a random moment during lunch, and then notice the flip side. When do you feel like you're acting, you're performing, you're shrinking to fit in? Too many people, when I talk about performing, you're not performing oh, I'm performing in my job. It's no, you're performing. You're putting on a performance. Now, if you're ready to dive deeper, then that's where you look at that value, you do your value dig. Ask, if no one was watching and I didn't need to please anyone, what would I stand for? What principles would still matter to me? That's your inner compass. And it's probably buried underneath years of checklists and the you should be's, but still, it's still right there waiting for you. Because when you are disconnected from who you are, you lose access to some of your best decision-making tools, your gifts and your values and your gut. If your work is actively pulling you away from that, it's no wonder you feel stuck or misaligned or burnt out. The moment you start remembering who you are, things will shift. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to start recognizing the version of you that existed before the job became your whole story, because that version of you is where the real impact lives. And you can start to use those things in your day-to-day job to start living a more fulfilled life. Not everything's about discovering that to leave the job. You start using it day-to-day in the job that you're in. And that's going to lead us to the third one, which is like when your gifts are gathering dust. And like, so think about this like gift draining awareness, like as like a tool. Like these natural talents are being wasted, or are they being actively supported? Are they being suppressed even? Like when your gifts, or just think about this, your gifts are like muscles, use them or lose them. Like, yeah, they'll still be there, but like, think about the impact you can make if you actually develop them. Most people overlook when it comes to like their job and any sort of burnout is like, it's not just the meetings or the stress or the spreadsheets. Like, those are there, but what happens is like when your natural talents, the things that just come easy to you and light you up, are either ignored or undervalued or just straight up shut down. There's a drain, and it's a massive energy drain because your gifts are like muscles, and if you don't use them, they shrink. And over time, like, you don't just feel underused, you start to question whether those gifts are even really a part of who you are in the first place. Can I even make a difference anymore? You might be someone who thrives on connecting with people, but your role has you stuck behind a screen, or maybe you're wired for creative thinking, but your job has you just following a script, or you're someone who sees how problem solving differently. But the system says like, hey, no thanks, we've always done it this way. That's not just frustrating, it is soul suffocating. And so here's how you can check if your gifts are being sidelined. Number one, the gift inventory we talked about, 3 to 5 things you're naturally good at that feel easy to you. Not that they're just there to perform or impress others, but that you can make an impact with. If you're stuck, think about what people always come to you for help with. Those are clues, that matter. And then of course you could do the gift tracking, like we talked about earlier. But think about that plus and minus, where it's like, well, did I use my gift? Did it feel good? I'm going to give myself a +1 if I was able to use gifts. I'm going to do 0 if like it didn't come up. And like, I'm going to do a -1 if I'm feeling like my gifts were ignored or even discouraged. Most people are surprised that, often their best stuff stays on the bench. Notice your energy patterns. Like the moment you feel the most alive at work, they usually involve your gifts, or the moments that are the most draining, usually the opposite. And then, ask yourself this simple question, like, if I could do more of what I'm just naturally good at in my role, what could that look like? If the honest answer is like, there's no room for that here, then there's a misalignment problem. If it's, well, here's what that could be, then start to find the ways to start to incorporate that more into your day. Because here's the deal, your gifts aren't like some bonus feature. They're actually fuel you need. They will make things valuable to you. Like, they're not just productive. Like, if your job isn't creating space for them, like, it's not just wasting your potential. It's messing with your confidence and your clarity and your ability to have joy in your life and fulfillment. But once you get clear on what your gifts are and how often they come out to play, that's when you can start making real decisions. Whether it's reshaping your role or building a bridge to something new, it starts by protecting like what makes you you. Like, don't try to switch jobs or think you have to switch and do something totally different if you can't even say what are these types of things that light you up and give you energy, because you're just going to find yourself in another place doing the same sort of a thing. But your gifts, like they aren't meant to sit in storage. They're meant to be used and stretched and celebrated and shared. And that takes us to the fourth thing, which is like we talked about that Sunday night signal, right? Like when Sunday, like, I don't know if you've ever had like the Sunday scaries, like, or warning signs. Your body usually knows things before you do. Like, your body knows things before you can think through it. Your mind catches up. That pit of the stomach feeling we talked about on Sunday afternoons, like the weekend's been slipping away. Your body's already bracing, like, oh no, Monday's coming. Most people brush it off because they're like, oh, well, it's just part of being grown up and having responsibilities. That dread you're experiencing, it might be telling you something more important. Your body often knows things that your mind is trying to rationalize away. So if Sunday feels like your nervous system is quietly screaming like, hey, please don't make me go back there. Like, once again, I don't know, you might want to look at that. That might be your soul waving that flag. If your work is aligned, if you use your gifts that reflect your values, like, and it lets you be yourself, like, you might not be thrilled to go in on a Monday. You might be tired, but you won't feel like you're heading into battle either. And that weight, that restlessness, the insomnia, It's your body's way of protecting you from a situation that's been out of alignment for far too long. So let's start to find the ways that we tune in a little bit more. Start with that Sunday body check. From Saturday afternoon to like Monday morning, notice what shifts. Is there tightness, uneasy sleep? Are you snapping at your family? Like, track your energy and your mood. Like, once again, you just give yourself like a 1 to 10 rating, throughout the weekend for a few weekends in a row. The patterns won't lie to you. And then try the week ahead preview, where Sunday night, take 5 minutes and picture the upcoming week. Like, who you'll see, what you'll do, where you'll be. And watch your body. Like, is your chest tightening? Do your breath shorten? Is your mood drop? Like, whatever. Once again, that's data. Really, really helpful data, actually. And then look for the contrast. Pay attention to how you feel on like a slow Saturday morning versus like Sunday night, or the Monday commute. Like, is there emotional whiplash happening there? And it might not just be because you don't like work. It might be that full misalignment just in disguise. And then name your triggers. What parts of your week spark that dread? Is it certain meetings, people, tasks, or just the general vibe? Get specific. Clarity helps you know if there's something that you can shift or something that needs maybe an exit plan. Once you start to decode these like signals, instead of ignoring them, like then you get the power back. Your body isn't trying to sabotage any sort of stability. It's not trying to create anxiety for you. It's trying to lead you towards a more sustainable version of success. You don't have to wait for burnout to hit you, to change. Like, just listen earlier, act sooner, and trust your nervous system isn't broken. It's been trying to tell you the truth all along. And of course, our fifth one, like when your job crosses your values. We have to identify when your work contradicts who you really are, or your paycheck costs you your soul, really. It's one of the deepest ways work drains your soul is, like, it's not the long hours, or if you feel like you're being micromanaged. Like, it's when, what you do every day starts to clash with what you believe deep down is right. Sometimes it's obvious, like being asked to sell something that you don't believe in, or stay quiet when someone's being mistreated or something's being done wrong. Other times it's so much quieter. It's agreeing to things that just don't sit right. It's promoting stuff that feels off. It's going along with the system that feels broken. And over time, those small, like, whatever, it's fine moments, like, they pile up until one day you start feeling like a total stranger to yourself. That's where your values are colliding. It doesn't just make you feel icky. Like, it actually wears away your confidence and clarity and your sense of who you are. You start doubting your own compass. You stop trusting your gut, and more than, any like terrible boss or overloaded to-do list is really what like starts to break people down. And so let's spot it before it goes too far. So number one, you got to get clear. What are those top 5 non-negotiables you have? Values like honesty, justice, growth, compassion, creativity, freedom. I talked about some more earlier. Define what they really mean to you and how they'll show up in your daily life, and be as specific as possible. Then do a daily scan. Like, at the end of each workday, like, this week, like throughout the week, just ask yourself, like, did I act in alignment with my values? Do I feel like I leave them at the door because I'm of what I do? Like, just note it. Just take note. Start noticing the trends really fast, how that shows up. And then maybe fast forward 5 years. Like, think about, like, if nothing were to change, and you keep compromising those same values every single day, what does the version of you look like, feel like? Like, are you still proud of who you're becoming? Maybe it's time to make a change. And then look at the cost. Like, every repeated value collision, ask like what's this really costing me in energy, in self-respect, in how I show up outside of work? And be honest, because until you name that cost, it's hard to change the math to align in your favor. And the bottom line is, you can't build a fulfilling and joyous life if your job is constantly asking you to become someone you're not. But the good news is, like, the moment you start honoring your values, even if it's just noticing them and naming what feels off, you can reclaim a little bit of yourself. You can find ways to pepper those values back in. You can set boundaries within your work. And that's where change starts to begin. And then, of course, our sixth one, like, this is about how you transform your current job without quitting yet. You can create meaningful change without changing jobs. Sometimes the problem isn't the job, it's just how you're showing up. That's one of the most important things here. Not every soul-sucking job requires this dramatic exit. Sometimes, like, the problem isn't the title or the company. It's just that you've been showing up as a version of you that's just way too small. You've been hiding your gifts, like dimming out your voice that you have there, operating on autopilot. But the good news is, like, before you go planning your escape, like, there might be a way for you to bring more of your real self to that job that you already have. And so that's this idea of like of job crafting, creating what you want. Like, it's not about being more positive or pretending bad conditions don't exist. It's about shifting the way you show up, finding the small intentional ways to shape your role that actually taps into your strengths and your values and your interests. Because when your work reflects who you are, everything starts to feel lighter, even if nothing on paper has actually changed. And so think about it this way, like step one to do this, like map what you can actually control. Make the list of everything in your job and then group it into buckets of like, what can I control? What could I maybe influence, and what's out of my hands? And, focus your energy on the first two, like what can I actually control or what can I influence? Step two, maybe run some small experiments. Think about like your gifts. What comes naturally to you, like that you could use in your current role, or maybe your current role ignores. Are you amazing at simplifying chaos? Like, could you streamline a process that's been driving everyone nuts? Like, are you a people person who's just stuck behind spreadsheets? What if you mentored a new hire or led a short team check-in each week? Something low risk, but like you could have high authenticity to who you are. Like, these experiments will go a long way. And of course, step three is like aligning yourself with what matters to you. If you deeply value creativity, service, growth, like find small projects or tweaks that let you bring more of that into your day. Maybe it's pitching an idea that you believe in, suggesting more efficient workflows, starting a lunch and learn around something that you love. And then the fourth thing you do here is share your strengths with leadership strategically. Instead of venting about what's wrong, approach your boss with a clear offer like, hey, I've been thinking about how I could help with insert the thing that's valuable and aligned to your strengths. Would it be helpful if I explored that, or could we explore what that looks like or how that could show up more in my role or with the team or in the company? Again, you're not complaining, you're creating value. My gosh, leaders love that sort of thing. If you don't, so the biggest thing to think about this is like, you don't have to overhaul your entire role overnight. Even small shifts in how you just show up can completely change how your work feels. And more importantly, they give you data. You start to see like what lights you up and what doesn't, what works and what still drains you. And that clarity is so powerful. Sometimes job crafting leads to a whole new chapter within the same company, which is amazing. Other times it just confirms that it's time to go. But now you're moving from clarity and not burnout. You're not stuck. You're just, one maybe small experiment away from finding out what's possible right where you are. And that leads us to the final one, the seventh one, which is the building the bridge before you bail. Their strategic transition plan that honors both authenticity and responsibility. We have to build the bridge before you can cross the chasm, right? And it's something that like people have already tried all the tweaks. You've tried all the things we've talked about. You've tested, things in your current role. You've tried to bring more of your real self to the surface, and still you just feel that soul shrinking every Monday morning. And if that's you, maybe it is time to start planning the exit, but not the dramatic, like I quit, I'm out moment. Like, we're going to build the bridge first. Think of it like the blueprint to building your bridge. It's about creating the clear and strategic plan to transition out of the misaligned work without blowing up your life, your finances, or your relationships. You're not running away from your job. You're walking towards something better one step at a time. So it could look like, a couple of things. Like step one, you could like get real about what better looks like. Like, what does better work actually look like? You got to actually paint the picture. So if you've done the work already that we talked about in the previous principles, like now you can talk about like what type of environment would light you up? Like, what kind of problems would you be solving? What would be your ideal day? Like, what could that feel like? And it's not about finding a perfect job title or something that just gives you everything you want, but like, what would align to your gifts and your values and the impact you want to have? And then step two would be like, maybe there's skills gaps. So find the gaps. Once you know where you're headed, identify any of the skills or expertise that you need to get there and do an inventory. What do you already have? What's missing? What needs to be improved? And then start closing those gaps with books or courses or projects or part-time gigs, whatever. Let you just go and test new muscles while you're still in your current role. And of course, the third thing you can do here is like you build real relationships. You start connecting with people in that field, industry, type of work that you're aiming towards. Don't just ask for job leads. Ask about their journey. What do they love? What do they wish they knew before they started? Like, these conversations will open doors that you never knew existed and help you stay inspired. The fourth thing there is going to be like, make your money plan, because honestly, financial stress kills good decisions. Figure out what you need to save, what expenses could be cut, what timelines make sense to you in reality. You might not be able to leap tomorrow, but you start stacking your resources so that you can buy your freedom later. And then the fifth thing there is going to be test your next move in real life. Before going all in, test drive the new direction. Volunteer in something, freelance, shadow somebody, or even like just schedule like a deep dive coffee chat. The point isn't perfection, it's just to gather data. You know, we want to know if that next step feels alive or just like less bad. You know, and this matters because people don't burn out just from hard work. They burn out from stuck work, feeling like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. But when you have a plan, when you have the bridge forming under your feet, even on tough days can feel lighter. So if you're stuck in something that's slowly draining you, like it's just taking the life out of you, don't just wish yourself away. Start building your way out, you know, thoughtfully and strategically, one solid and like soul-aligned step at a time. You don't need a dramatic escape plan. You just need to have a real escape plan. And so let's like bring this all together and let this land. The truth is, most people don't say it out loud. Like, staying in the work that is slowly like eroding your energy, your value, your identity. Like, it's not the adult responsible thing. It's not noble. It's actually expensive. It costs you your spark. You know, it robs you of your very gifts that you're meant to give to the world. It teaches people you love the most that like quite sacrifices just how life works. But what if it's not? What if the dread, the disconnect, the fatigue isn't something you just push through, but something you pay attention to? Because that's often how it starts, not with a breakdown, but a whisper that just says like, hey, this isn't it. And if these principles that we talked about today, like, they aren't here to pressure you, you know, to quit or anything. They're just to help you pay attention and give you permission to be honest about what's working and what's not, you know, and practical ways, maybe start building something that does in your current role, in your current, you know, company, or if it's somewhere else. Once again, you don't have to flip the table. You don't have to like blow it all up, but you know, you do have to stop ignoring the signals your soul is sending you. Whether you shift things right where you are, you start building the bridge towards something better, you owe it to yourself, everyone you impact, like to figure out what aligned work looks like to you so that you can show up more authentically, show up who you are, and create the real impact you were born to make. Now, if this video, if it's lit something up inside of you, if it connects with you, you know, and you're looking to keep walking down that path, then that's where go get yourself a copy of the GIVER method. It's the link to it on Amazon is down in the description. Once again, it is packed full of tools and stories and real life strategies to help you discover your gifts, turn them into work that truly matters. And if you need more personal one-on-one support, that's where I've opened up some of my coaching positions one-on-one. Like, if you're serious about going from stuck to aligned, like, if that's you, check out the link about coaching. If you run a team, lead an event, host a podcast, have whatever, the space where this message could help, once again, check out the link for speaking and podcasting, where we can look at what that looks like. And then lastly, like, if this video made you feel seen, like, if you're like, yeah, this aligns with me, then like, I'd love to hear it. Drop a comment what hit home. And of course, you know, like the video, hit the bell for notifications, subscribe, all those things, you know, the usual stuff, like, because I want to make sure that, you know, you can continue to see the stuff that's going to help work through this for you. You know, just remember this, something to take away, like, you're not broken, you're not behind, you're not selfish for wanting more. Like, you're ready to be more authentically you, and that's the start of everything new of who you can become. And so with that, I will just tell you to have a great rest of your day, and we'll catch you in our next video.